Welcome to the Jazz Notes podcast. I'm Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
We are recording this on Monday, June 23rd. It is 2 days before the NBA draft, the first round of the NBA draft, I should say. Some quick news. Yes, I will be broadcasting live on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Throughout the first round of the draft, we have a lot of names there, including like Steve Cleveland, longtime Paul George's college basketball coach, which is really interesting with the Ace Bailey stuff, actually. But then on Thursday night, we are doing a live show again, and you're going to be joining me.
Yes.
Which I'm excited about.
That'll be fun.
So we will be doing those for you to listen to. You can come hang out if you want. We're going to be at the Cage coming up on Wednesday, so that'll be fun. Should be a good time. But there will be live recording or a live broadcast then. After the first round,
yes,
I'm going to come back here, and you and I are going to record, I think, late Wednesday night.
Yeah, like 10, 11 p.m.
Yeah, if we're lucky. And I suspect we should just do a Twitter live podcast. So if you want to listen to it, if you're up and you're reading about who these players are or what happened for the Jazz that night, I suspect we will do a live Twitter broadcast that you can listen to. If not, it'll be out Thursday morning if you want to listen to this podcast.
Yes.
Today's plan, normal Jazz Notes podcast right now. We're going to end the podcast, and then we're going to go right into our mock draft because we wanted it to have a little bit of leeway before Wednesday.
Yes.
So, and there's a chance that there's a trade and all this stuff is rendered useless, but we'd rather it come out today so you have a chance to listen to it either tonight or tomorrow or whenever you listen to these podcasts. So we will be doing a second Jazz Notes today, but it's purely a mock draft. But if you want to get to know these players a little bit better, who they are, we're going to touch on 30 different players.
Yes.
So we'll give you some of that as well.
So if you're wondering why these dudes are wearing the same clothes in 2 episodes, we're recording them back to back.
That's why. Yeah, right. And I don't have an extensive wardrobe. Yeah. So that's why. Okay. As always, find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops or C Holt Sports. You can find us at Blue Sky there. Read us at KSLSports.com. We like to go through news of the week. We like to go through, right now, we're kind of touching on a couple players, which we will touch on the international players today, a couple of other guys. Yep. And then we will get your mailbag.
Yes.
We had a lot of mailbag questions.
So many.
Understandably.
Yes.
So let's start. Was there really a lot of news for the week? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything this last week. There's a lot of draft stuff, especially about Ace Bailey, but we're getting into that in the mailbag.
And there's NBA stuff.
Yes.
But again, I don't think it's necessarily like Jazz-specific stuff.
Yes.
So I don't think it's worth diving that much into outside of, yes, we're going to answer all of it in the mailbag.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, straight into the player profiles?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so let's get all the international guys, then we can touch on the few college guys like you mentioned. Let's just start with Noah Esenge. Listed at 6'10" at the combine with a 7'1" wingspan, averaged 12.4 points, 5.3 rebounds, 1.4 steals, which is pretty good, 56% from the floor, 29.4% from three, 73% from the line.
So his biggest draw is that he's very young.
Yes.
He's the second youngest player in the draft behind Cooper Flagg, which again, it's crazy to look at Cooper Flagg and be like, oh, he's the second best passer in the draft. He's the best at all this stuff. That's Cooper.
Yes.
That's not Noah Esenge.
No.
French basketball is taking over the world right now. We've seen it all across the league. It's been happening for a while, but it's really at hitting a peak right now. It's kind of projected as a 3-4, like he's a wing.
Yes.
He's extraordinarily fluid athletically. Yeah. Really moves well for a guy his size. You mentioned, 6'10"?
Yeah, 6'10", no, without shoes.
And they just went through kind of the European combine that you have to go through if you're going to be in the draft to make sure all these guys get measured as well. But a lot of these guys, like teams are still playing, so they don't have a chance to do the NBA combine, but they're doing that.
What I wrote in my notes about him, and I like this a lot, he's a 94-foot player on both ends.
He is.
Which is like he's really good in transition, and then also he has like his defensive versatility is kind of crazy. Like he can really guard 1 through 5. Like you're not going to put him on a 1 for the entire game, but like if you switch him onto him, it's not like he's just going to get dusted every single time. He's really good side to side.
He is so fluid, and he does move so well and has exceptional length that's the draw. That really is the draw. He's a guy who has some real defensive versatility, some defensive upside, and then offensively, like there are flashes where like he'll hit a 3 and then he'll attack off the dribble, and he really is good at getting downhill, and his free throw rate, which is really hard to find for European teams, it's like it's crazy. He's always the free throw line. He scores at a high level as a result. And I still am just like, whoa, he's a long ways away.
Yeah, that's exactly. What I wrote is like with his size, he doesn't play big enough to be a 5.
Right.
And he's not like quick enough to be a 3. So I think he's going to be a 4, like we talked about with some other guys. But he's not a great screener. He's not really a lob threat. He doesn't have great verticality.
Right.
And he's not really a good passer. So to me, what I wrote is like, unless he starts picking up on some of those things, which is kind of like hard to teach those things, he needs to improve his jump shot.
A lot.
Yes.
He takes a lot of hero shots, like a lot of really bad shots. He takes some things where you're like, oh, that wasn't like you missed the back of the backboard.
Yeah.
Like you took a baseline shot and didn't hit. You were on the you shot on the wrong side of the board. So I get it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're getting. He's a project. If I had the 5th pick and the 21st pick, 21, sure.
Yeah.
I get it. I would not take him at like number 9 overall.
No.
I would be really scared if I was that team. Like, and there are conversations he's going to go that high.
Yeah.
But I'd be really scared if that was like, if I were the Suns and I just traded for the 10th pick and like that was my out, like that's a huge home run swing.
Yeah.
A huge swing. And he's a ways out before he's going to be able to contribute.
Reminds me of Al-Farouq Aminu a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Get that.
Next one, Nolan Traore. 6'3" at the combine, 6'8" wingspan, average 11.6 points, 5.1 assists, 39% from the floor, 30% from 3, 71% from the line. I wanted to say this, watching Traore made me appreciate Dylan Harper a lot more.
Okay.
Because it's like a similar kind of archetype of player.
Yeah.
Like
Bigger guard.
Yeah, bigger guard, drive first, decent, like good passer. But you can see why Dylan Harper is the second prospect and Traore is like second half of the draft kind of guy.
And also why he came in as a projected top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And then throughout the season just consistently dropped throughout. And has had some huge performances, has some big performances, is playing in the best league of maybe anyone in the draft right now. Like he's playing at a really high level.
True.
But yeah, he's just like, he's a bad decision maker. He turns the ball over a ton. He doesn't shoot the ball particularly well. Again, if you were to say that the context he was playing in made him look worse and you still like the guy he was before the season, he's worthy of a first-round draft pick.
Yes.
But his flaws that were the flaws going into the year, which is always got to clean up his shot and he's got to turn the ball over less, did not get fixed.
No.
So those are still the issues with him.
Something interesting, though, 27% off the dribble twos, 24% off the dribble threes, but he shot 39.4% on catch and shoot threes.
Yeah.
So like similar with some of these other guys that we talk about have flashes of the jump shot. He has that. But it's also like he needs that in order to make it.
Yeah.
So,
but it'll get interesting. There will be teams, I suspect, that have 2 draft picks, which the Jazz have 2 draft picks, but it's not just the Jazz because so many teams have multiple draft picks, including one in the lottery and one in the 20s in this year's draft, that I could see somebody like passing on Jeremiah Fears and say, we'll just get Nolan Traore in the second half of the draft.
Yeah, true.
I could see that.
Anything else?
Nope, that's good.
Okay. Next up, I think it's Joan Behringer.
Yeah, Johan Behringer
Yes.
is how I've heard it, but
Yeah.
a lot of people say it a lot of different ways.
Listed at 6'11" at the combine with a 7'4.5" wingspan. I saw this story. I don't know if it's true, but I still want to say it just in case it is. Started playing basketball in 2021 after outgrowing his soccer cleats.
Yeah, that's the rumor, is that he was a soccer player. At least that's the report. He was a soccer player, which lends itself to his fluidity.
Yes.
He's a great athlete, really good vertical leaper. Came to the game late, but has some like good tools already. Like has great tools and kind of has the makings of a game. I will say this. I think the concept of like a guy who's late to the game being a green flag is totally backwards. I hate it.
Yeah.
Like, and I've always felt this way. And then talking to Will Hardy this year in the middle of the season, Andy Larson asked him, like, what would you tell a young player who wants to make the NBA? And Will's answer was play as much basketball as possible. It's like, it's a little bit the 10,000 hours thing, which I don't totally subscribe to, but I do think it's like, you're new to this, so you just haven't seen a lot of these situations before.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason I get positionless basketball, but I also want a point guard who's played point guard a lot in their life because they've been in all these situations. They don't get rattled and they know how to make decisions. Like, I don't want you to learn how to do that late in life.
Yeah.
I want you to have been doing that since you were 9 years old.
Yes.
Centers are a little bit different, and Behringer is a little bit different because you make fewer decisions, right? You're not the offensive cog. You're not making all these decisions. You're not scanning the floor. The best ones do. You're Jokic, great.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily need that from a center, so it's a little more passable, but that's just a little bit of an aside. I actually liked him better than Essengay, if I'm being honest with you, just because like projectability is pretty obvious.
True.
He's like, what'd you say, 6'11", probably has a 35-inch vertical, who just is going to be a rim runner and catch lobs, and like worst case scenario, he's like a backup.
Yeah.
But best case scenario, like he can continue to grow, and in a year or two, he's just like one of those 15 best centers in the NBA who does exactly that.
Yeah, I wrote that like right now his game is almost like all athleticism, but he does have, especially for being so new to the game, like good defensive IQ, positioning. He's doesn't get as many blocks as you would think with how like his length and how athletic he like sort of plays on the court, but like I agree with you. Like he's projectable. Like he's going to be either Jalen Duren or Jericho Sims. Like that's sort of his range to me.
Yeah, right. There's like Jackson Hayes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and those guys even stick in the NBA even if they're not particularly valuable. great players. And again, I'm not taking him top 10.
Yes.
But like if you're taking him in the 20s, I totally get it. But he's not my favorite center in the 20s of this group or of anyone that we've talked about.
Yeah.
But I totally, he makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yves Missy is hit, hadn't played a lot of basketball, went to Baylor, was okay last year, and looked like a good pick for the Pelicans this year. So if someone takes him, I totally get it.
Next, Ben Seraph. Listed at 6'6" at the combine with a 6'8" 3/4 wingspan, averaged 12.8 points, 2.2 rebounds, 4.6 assists, 41.9% from the floor, 22% from three, 78% from the line.
Big guard. He's like 6'5".
Yeah.
So he's going to be well over 6'6" in shoes. Gets downhill pretty well, pretty good off the dribble. Sometimes every shot, I like to say, looks like a guess. I've said this with a lot of guys, but like sometimes it's like, oh yeah, went in perfectly, and sometimes like it only hit the backboard. What happened? Because of his size, I actually think he's going to be an okay defensive player. I don't think he's going to be like totally toast, but he's a pretty good playmaker. Like he's a pretty good passer. He's not super innate guy. Like I think there are other players who read the floor a little bit better. But if there were to be somebody, and we'll talk about him coming up in a moment, if you said you liked Ben Seraph better than you liked Yegor Demin, I would totally get it.
Yeah.
And just like feisty. He's just like a punk out there. You can just tell like the other European players hate him. He was on the same team as Essengay.
Yes.
So you can watch them both together.
I watched the championship game that was played yesterday where he had like 20 points, played a good game. He had this one pass, I think it was in the second or third quarter, where he was on the left wing, did like a spinning cross court left-hand pass all the way across the court. It's like he has like every pass in his bag. Like he can make any pass, which is always a good sign coming from your point guard. It's kind of weird though. He plays upright a lot because he is taller. He's not like shifty enough, and that affects him, as you can see, both when he's handling the ball and on defense, guarding like smaller, quicker guards. He has a good first step. Yeah. And then also something you see a lot with these overseas guys is he has really good change of pace. Like you see it from Luka, and like we've talked about other people who have that. And I wrote the same thing: passable defender because of his size and his IQ. But it's
like a fine bet.
Yeah.
A fine bet for the second round. And again, if you were to pass on like Yakashonis and the top 10, it'd be because you think like I can get Seraph at 25, and I think there's going to be somewhat similar upside. Like there's a chance if Ben Seraph had come and played at Illinois, he would have had the exact same season.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like other than maybe not as hot a shooting to start the year, but kind of dominate the same way.
All right, last international guy, Noah Penda, listed at 6'8" 1/4 at the combine with a 6'10" 1/4 wingspan, averaged 10.6 points, 3.9 rebounds, 10.2 points, 5.1 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 44% from the floor, 30% from three.
I think he's miscast as a 3. Mm-hmm. He's just like a huge bully. I think he's a 4 or 5.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think for some reason he kind of played 3 at his level in Europe, but I think he's a 4 or 5. He's really strong. He actually has some weird spots where he really wants to shoot. Like he really looks like he's going to be comfortable taking this 3, and he doesn't knock him down at a high level right now. But I was intrigued. He moves really well for his size, and it's hard to undersell. Like he is absolutely enormously strong.
He has really good footwork. Like you would think for his size, it would just be like the I'm forgetting his name, but just bully down to the paint, couple pound dribbles and get a layup. But a lot of time it's I'm gonna give you this left pivot and then spin back right and hit a fadeaway.
Which is why people really project that he's going to be a good defensive player. Yes. That's kind of the hope on him, is that he ends up being a really good defender, 3, 4, 5, because he's strong enough to defend 5s and quick enough to defend 3s, and then can just do enough as a shooter where he knocked down 32% of his attempts this year that gets up to 35, 36. And he's a legit front court 3 and D player, even if I don't think he's going to be able to guard guards. I don't think you ever open a playoff series with him guarding a point guard, but I don't think he's toast if he gets on an island in a switch or something weird. I think he's okay. And again, to just continue to do this theme, which I didn't mean to do, but now I'm just thinking about it, if you miss out on Colin Murray Boyles, you take Noah Penda.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the hope, is guys who can't shoot now have some front court defensive positionality, and then maybe there's some upside if they shoot.
Yeah. And he led the league in steals and blocks, which is pretty cool as well. So I think that it's he has the sort of, again, I've used this before, even though I hate it, glue guy sort of feel.
Yeah.
All right, college guys now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we're doing 3 college guys.
Quickly, did you have a favorite of the European players? Do you think you could rank them quickly?
Yeah, I probably could. I would say number 1 for me was Ben Seraph.
Okay.
2, I would say Traore.
Okay.
And then I would probably go Berenger, Penda, Essengay.
Essengay last.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I think that's going to be the opposite of how the draft goes.
Yeah.
A lot of people really like Essengay. I get it. The athletic tools are there, the length and the athleticism. But I'm with you. I think it's actually a little harder to project. And I think there is like where you miss on these guys is the same way that like Tijan Salon was awful last year. You know, it's just kind of like really high upside. You're betting on all these things coming together, and maybe it's just way too many things to ask a guy moving to a new part of the world to figure out.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I think Johan Berenger is like it's like a lot of Sam Dalembert there. Like it kind of has that body.
Yeah.
And then who knows? We'll see where he develops into. Yeah, I would probably be like Serif, Penda, Berenger, Essengay, Traore.
Yeah. It's good. Like the 2 through 4 is hard for me, but I think I'd like Serif would probably be my favorite, and Essengay would probably be at the bottom.
Okay.
All right. Now we have 3 college guys.
Yeah. Let's start with Yegor.
I was about to say.
He's local.
Yes.
He deserves a lot of attention. What were your thoughts watching him?
It's like you have Kasparis, you have Traore, you have even like Cooper Flag, Dylan Harper. I think Yegor is the best passer in the draft.
Okay.
Which is like there's a lot of competition there. He was like one of the biggest risers when it came to the combine. He listed as 6'8" and a quarter with a 6'10" and a quarter wingspan. The thing though is with his size, it's like it's so hard to see how he's going to play in the NBA, right?
Okay.
Like is it going to be a true like 76ers play Ben Simmons at point guard and then he guards like forwards on the other side? Is it going to be like a Josh Giddey situation? That's like the most common comparison for him. Regardless, it's sort of the thing where like if he can improve his creation and shot a little bit, like it's like a home run pick.
6'8" and a quarter bare feet. So he's going to play well over 6'9". He really can play some point guard. He's not like Ben Serif is a more pure point guard.
Yes.
And Yakashonis, I think, is actually, even though he's kind of a 1-2, is a little bit more of a pure point guard.
Yeah.
Than Yegor is. But the bigger you get, the easier it is to kind of play point guard.
Yes.
Right? Because some of the things you can do, some of the passes you can make, et cetera, some of the advantages you can create off of just being bigger make your life a little bit easier, which is why some of these little guards that do make it are so highly skilled.
Yes.
You have to be so skilled to be that little and play a la Trae Young or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's not like, I don't think he comes in as like one of the best passers in the NBA, even if he's one of the better passers, if not the best passer in this draft. So I think that's kind of a hard thing to play with of like, how exactly does that fit? Where does that come in? But his size is legitimately like you're betting on him because of his age, his passing, and his size.
Yes.
Which is not a bad bet.
No.
I don't know if I would take it top 10, but I understand the bet if someone does. Kind of dribbles the ball a little bit high, so he gets ripped. Like he's going to get picked on a lot early in his career, and teams are going to make him look really stupid. I mean, honestly, they are, just because he needs to get a lot stronger. He's going to have to tighten his handle up, but I kind of bet it's going to get there. So I think he'll be a fine ball handler. But yeah, he makes a lot of great passes. Now, some of it was that BYU ran a pro-style system that I think a lot of guards would look good in playing.
Yes.
And if everyone had a Keba Keita to throw lobs to and set screens for, you would look really good.
Yeah.
But he did. To be fair, it's not like he looked bad doing those things. He did look good doing those things. So the big question is 41% from the floor, 27% from three. When he got into the Big 12, his numbers were pretty disastrous.
Yeah.
I was like, he averaged 10 points a game. I think there's a real chance he's never a scorer.
Yeah.
Like we talk about Josh Giddey. Like Josh is really aggressive. He gets downhill. He scores at the rim. He like came in with that mentality. I don't really love that comp just because I think we're forgetting how good Josh Giddey actually was, even though he's had his off the court issues and kind of fell out of favor in OKC. He's still a really good player.
Yeah. The thing with Yegor is I think both starting his NBA career and then just throughout the entirety of his career, like even if he does come around with his shot and his self-creation, like he's always going to be a pass first guy, which is like he will be at his best when you have either catch and shoot shooters around him or just like pure scorers around him. And then like looking at the order of the draft, like maybe like I just don't really see a lottery team unless the Spurs are taking him at 14.
Okay.
Because like there's not
and I don't think they're going to take another guard who can't shoot.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like I just don't know where he ends up going. But like with that said, a lot of people on their big boards I've seen have Yegor in like the top 10, 12 range.
The concern, 27% from the three-point line, 69% from the free throw line. So like the touch is weird. Even on some of his passes, the touch is weird. You can see it's like not super crisp. 41% from the floor, which again are huge red flags for a guy that's that size.
Yes.
And the Big 12 was good, but it wasn't that good. I just think he's going to figure it out because he's so big and he can pass. And I think those guys stick.
Yes.
I just don't know if there's like the star upside there. There's a lot of upside. if the shot came along, but like I don't think he knows when to shoot. He takes a lot of hero shots. He can actually get to a shot off the dribble a little bit, which like VJ Edgecombe can't even do.
Yeah.
And Yegor can get to it. But even though he averaged 3.9 rebounds a game, which is like good for Jeremiah Fears, but that's the same number as Jeremiah Fears. Like Jeremiah Fears is 6'2.5", and Yegor is huge. Like I don't think he's going to rebound particularly well. So when you go to the Josh Giddey comps, we're like Josh Giddey averages 8 rebounds a game or whatever it is. Like, he's a really good, really complete player on the offensive side, and then can do some rebound and go stuff. I don't see that from Yegor. Plays super upright. He almost plays like a cartoon where his legs are in front of him, like spinning, and he's running backwards. It's kind of weird to watch.
Yeah.
So again, I think he has a legitimate basketball IQ, like a good IQ. He makes some great passes. Like he has the ability to like escape dribble back off of a double team when he gets trapped, and then throw the ball from near midcourt into the paint on a dime to his big guy where only his big guy can get it.
Yeah.
He can't get anywhere off the dribble by himself.
True.
Like in isolation. So like late clock stuff, he's worthless. Sorry. Late game stuff, he's worthless. Sorry. He didn't even close every game for BYU because they recognized that as well. Kevin Young saw it. But if you give him a screen, he's okay. And he gets downhill, and then there's more spacing. And so like if you wanted to draw it up for me where Walker Kessler is setting a screen for him, where Walker's turned into an okay screener, and he comes off the corner or comes off the screen, and to his right is Lowry Markkanen, and to his left on the far corner, I should say right in the corner is Lowry, and the far left is Taylor Hendricks, or maybe it's Bryce Sensabaugh, and then back behind him, kind of at the free throw line extended, is Bryce Sensabaugh, and then he's got Walker rolling for a lob. Like he's going to pick you apart.
Oh yeah,
he's really going to do a good job in that. He can also get into the nail, the center of your defense a little bit, and make decisions out of there, and I think make good decisions. So, like, there's a thing there. There's like a real value there. I just like if you're drafting him to be like a number one guy who's going to carry a huge offensive load or score ever, I think you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah,
but like in the right spot, I think he's really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else for Yegor?
No, but definitely like first rounder.
Oh yeah,
no question
absolutely.
about it. I think he's going to stick in the NBA. And again, we talked about like his size and his passing. Like his shooting's got to get to a passable point. It has to. But like there are outcomes where he's like late career Nick Batum.
Yeah.
And even what you're talking about with like Ben Simmons, where I don't think he's going to be as strong as Ben Simmons is. Ben's huge, but like just having big guys who read the game well seem to find ways to stick. So I think he'll be around.
Yeah. All right. Next college guy.
Okay.
Liam McNeely. Listed as 6'6" and 3/4 at the combine, 6'8" and a half wingspan, averaged 14.5 points, 6 rebounds, 2.3 assists, 38% from the floor, 31.7% from three, but 86.6% from the line. I'm gonna be honest, I think he might have been my I don't want to say least favorite of all of them, but he's there. He's close to there for me.
So the context with Liam McNeely is elite high school player, played on Cooper Flagg's team.
Yep.
Again, I mean, you got to recognize how loaded this team was,
Yeah.
right? It was Cooper Flagg. It was Derek Queen. I think it was Asa Newell, who's a first rounder who we don't have on this list, but we'll talk about in the mock draft coming up later. And then Liam McNeely. So he has all the space in the world, and he was the best shooter coming out of high school last year. Like better or like up there with Trey Johnson.
Yeah.
Better or up there with Con Knippel.
Yeah.
And has legit NBA size. Goes to UConn. UConn doesn't have a point guard, so he has to play point guard. Then he suffers an ankle injury midway through the year and never really comes back from it. And he's like just being asked to do something he's not. And just had a horrible shooting year.
Yeah.
It was like weird. With that said, like all of the stuff looks right when he's doing it. The ball didn't go in enough, but you just got to know like what role you're asking him to be. And it's mostly going to be like a floor spacing guy with legit size at 6'6", who I think once he gets to the NBA level, as a little bit evidenced by the 86% free throw rate.
Yes.
And then more so by the fact that like this is who he was in high school, that shot's going to come along, and there's at least value of being 6'7" with shoes and shooting at a high level.
Yeah.
And then I actually think he makes like really good decisions. Like he reads the game. UConn was a little bit of a disaster this year, but like he catches the ball and moves it. Like he understands what's happening on the court. Some guys truly don't know what's going on the court. I don't think that's the case with Liam.
The thing that I'm worried about, and there has been cases of this in NBA draft history, is like he's coming in as a shooter. Like that is his NBA skill. And when you're coming off of a bad year in college, and then that leads to you dropping in the draft, and then you're coming in to an NBA team in probably a lesser role than if you like lit it up last year, for example. So much of shooting is confidence, and I don't really know how that's going to come together for him. However, like 43.1% on catch and shoot threes last year.
Yeah.
And then his total percentage was 31.7. So it's sort of like, and also when watching him, like if he's a little bit contested or if he like is coming off of the dribble a little bit or any sort of pull up, like it's just like his percentages tank if it's not just a catch and shoot.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's like projected as like a 20s guy.
He should be right there. There are teams like Orlando that would probably look at him just because they want to add more and more shooting.
Yeah.
Again, just to give you some context, because I did this with Yakashonis, if you listen to our previous show. Before his injury, which was an ankle injury, his first 14 games, UConn was 11-3. This included some of their non-conference stuff where they were a little up and down. Like they lost to Colorado, who was terrible this year. But Liam McNeely in the first 14 games before the ankle injury was at 13.6 points per game. 5.8 rebounds. That's the thing we should add. He's pretty tough. Like he's a tough kid. He's going to rebound. 2.6 assists. He shot 43% from the floor. Again, not great, but he did shoot 38% from three over his first 14 games. Like he was knocking down shots early, and it got worse as the season went on and once he came back from the injury.
Yeah.
And UConn did still make the tournament. You know, I think they still won a game. So there's a thing there. He beat Jeremiah Fear's game because I've gone back and watched that game a couple times now. And he shot 2 of 13 in that game. Like he was a disaster. There are stretches where if you ask him to do too much, he's going to be a mess. But I think if there's a world where you can be patient with him, again, if you're taking him with your second first-round pick, I like him.
Yeah. And it was an ankle injury, you said, right?
Ankle, yeah.
That's the sort of difference with me is like Kasparis had a forearm injury.
Yeah.
And then his shooting percentage just tanked, which makes sense. And for him, it's like, I just think there's a lot of confidence that goes into that. So that's why I was sort of wishy-washy.
Yeah, no problem. I totally understand it.
All right. Last. And someone who you sort of have a hot take for, Walter Clayton Jr. It's so funny, like, even before March Madness, it was like, I want to say he was like a second round guy, and then goes on this crazy run, and then now he's like projected in the 20s as well. Listed at 6'2" at the combine, 6'4" wingspan, 18.3 points, 3.7 rebounds, 4.2 assists, about 45% from the floor, 38.6% from three, 88% from the line. Good numbers for him.
I'd take him like 12th.
Yeah?
Yeah, like I just absolutely have. These are the types of guys that like undersized older players we really undervalue. Just because I think we things that we attribute to other guys, we kind of place on point guards, and I think point guards are a little bit in the world of their own as far as like how they play, and where their value is, and the fact that just like being a good decision maker translates and doesn't necessarily need to get like way better. If you're always a good decision maker, I think it's going to continue to translate, even if it's showed when you were 22. The nice thing with Walter Clayton is he's always been a good decision maker.
Yeah.
Like, even at Iona, he was a good player. He just went to a much better team in Florida. I just like. Man, if I had a pick in the 20s, I just would zero question.
Yes.
Like, I have a couple of guys I feel that way about. I talked about Maxime Reynaud in the last episode. I feel the same way about him. He's also a little bit older. And maybe I'm just falling victim to the idea that older guys play better, and I'm kind of missing that, like, maybe at 18 they weren't those same players. But no, you just look around the league, and guys who shoot the ball as well as Walter Clayton does, let me pull up his numbers really quickly, unless you've got him in front of you. He's going to be one of the best shooters from this draft.
Yes.
Last year, he shot 45% from the floor, 38% from three. He took 8 threes a game. Yeah. He's a legit shooter. He shoots off the dribble.
Yes.
He shoots hero shots, late game, late clock, was winning games for Florida with his big-time shooting. Because of the design of their team, he was able to gamble a little bit more defensively. So his steals numbers at 1.2 a game were probably a little bit elevated than where they will be in the NBA because he's a little bit smaller. But I just look around the NBA and the Fred VanVleets of the world, and even the Brunsons of the world, those are too high. That's too high of a thing. But I just think those guys bring a lot of value.
Yes.
And they end up Fred VanVleet went undrafted, right? And Brunson was a second round pick. Whatever it is, we just miss on these guys.
Yeah.
Jameer Nelson was one of these guys. These big body, sharp shooting guards, I just think have a ton of value. The one I'm also really high on Clayton. I think that he could come in and be awesome. Like you said, shooting and scoring, especially when you can do it in all these different ways, it translates at the end of the day. Maybe you have to get a little bit better at it because you're going against NBA defenders, but it does translate at the end of the day. My only question for him is, and it's similar to some other guys we've talked about, Jace Richardson, for example, he's a point guard body, but I think he's more of a shooting guard kind of skill set. And it's I don't know if he can be Donovan Mitchell. Okay.
Right? He doesn't have that athleticism for sure. He has
definitely doesn't have the athleticism.
Yeah, he has the scoring upside. But no, I think he's going to come in and he's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and I think he'd play right away, and I wouldn't be surprised if 2 years from now he's the Jazz's starting point guard.
Yeah.
If you were to draft him. Because I think he's going to be a starting point guard somewhere, or the sixth man somewhere in the NBA in 3 years. at the absolute latest.
Yes.
So he was, of these players we've talked about today, he was by far my favorite.
Same.
And like,
Same here.
I think the partial, if it were me, like the nightmare scenario, if I were an Ainge and I went and played basketball at BYU and I'm sitting there at 21 and my board and Yegor Demin and Walter Clayton is there, and it's like the pressure to take the kid with the high upside that went to the school you played for and Walter Clayton, who I think is going to be a better NBA player. Like, I don't envy those situations.
Yes.
The nice thing is I think like the Ainges are cold enough that I don't think that haunts them.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
look, it would be really telling if those two were on the board. The Jazz took Walter Clayton over Yegor, I think.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, Walter Clayton, his second year at Iona, shot 95% from the free throw line. Like, he's as good a free throw. He's just like as good a shooter as you're going to find.
Yes.
So if you really value shooting, and then, yeah, he only averaged 4 assists a game, but he had a lot of like 8s and 9s and 7s and 6s and, you know, kind of mixed in there. He's just a guy I would just, no question, take. Just no-brainer, easy, plug and play. He's going to be like the best player on your summer league team. And even I think there's value to that. Just like, you don't need to be 20 forever. All of your guys on this Jazz roster are 20. They're always, there's going to be another 20-year-old coming in next year, a 19-year-old with the top 5 pick they get next year. Like, maybe just take a 22-year-old who's going to be 23, 24, 25, 26, fine. He's like ready to play a little bit more and doesn't have the problem of like, I just haven't seen enough basketball in my life. So, yeah, I'd say Walter Clayton is my favorite player of this group we've talked about by far. And like I said, like, honestly, I'd just take him at 12. Whatever. He's just going to come in and help me win for a long time. Don't overthink it.
All right. Anything else on these guys?
No, it was long. Again. All right. And there's more we could talk about. Again, we haven't talked about guys like Danny Wolf and Colin Murray Boyles and Asa Newell. Like, there are a lot of guys we have not talked about that deserve to be talked about. We will talk about them in the mock draft, which is coming up next in a separate episode. You'll have to go and find it. It won't just roll into that. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get your mailbag. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, find us on Twitter at Ben's Hoops. Read us at C Holt Sports. Oh, you know, there was a little bit of news that we missed on. There's not going to be a Jazz draft party.
Oh, okay.
The Jazz are going to send the party to you, is what they've said. Like, tell them where you're having your draft party, and like, there's a chance the Bears shows up.
Okay.
That was a story that came out over the weekend, and
Gotcha.
If there was going to be something else, they would have announced it already.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that was their solution. They just realized, like, don't know where to do it. You can't really do a restaurant because if 10,000 people show up, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And if nobody shows up, it looks goofy. So I kind of understand. They were just in a tough spot with the rebuild going on over at Delta Center. So to answer a question actually that came from Eric Johnson, but should have been a news article, was that, or at least a note, that there will not be a draft party, from my understanding, unless they were to really scramble something together. But I don't think so. Otherwise, let's get to the mailbag. My DMs, USU the right blue, send in a question. Actually, send in 3. We just have so many questions in mailbag. I'll just pick one. How many Jazz players right now could be in a rotation on an eventual championship team in the future? Timeline aside, who do you see as those guys?
Like how they are right now, or like projecting for them?
Whatever you think.
I would say for projecting for them.
Well, let's say right now, and then say guys you think could get there.
Okay. Right now, like John Collins, Colin Sexton, Larry Markkinen. I think
Walker could play in the playoffs.
Walker could, absolutely.
Yeah, Walker would be like Walker could start on a play. Like, Isaiah Hartenstein's a good player. Don't get me wrong, and like, it's probably just because of his experience better than Walker is for the moment. But like, if you put Walker in that spot, I promise you, he looks good.
Yes,
he looks really good too. So those 4 guys for sure.
Yeah, I would say honestly, maybe Bryce Sensabaugh is like the 9th man. Like, he might get like 10 minutes when like you're down by whatever, and need to get some
like
shots,
Isaiah Joe is playing in this.
Exactly.
And you know, Aaron Wiggins, is playing in this. Like, there's a lot of guys who like play that aren't great players.
Maybe Kyle Filipowski.
Like, guys, Tony Bradley got legit finals minutes.
Yes.
Like a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Again, it's why when we say like the Jazz probably aren't as far as some people think, like, it doesn't mean they're close, because you still have to find like the 3 players that put all those guys in their spots.
Yeah.
But like, that's what you actually have a bunch of okay guys. And it's kind of why I don't know how the Jazz feel about Keontae. I've heard mixed things from people outside, not necessarily like directly. So I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But like, if you just think that like, hey, you know what? Just having like the 7th or 8th guy who we don't pay a whole lot, but we just kind of invest him in a long time, and like, we like him, but we don't love him, and he's not going to be one of the faces of our franchise, but there's value there. Like, that's kind of exactly what Ben Mathurin did. And Ben Mathurin's been a better player than Keontae and was drafted way higher than Keontae, don't get me wrong. But like, it's just kind of value to some of those change of pace guys who come in and just give you a big third quarter every now and again. And I think that might be who Keontae is. So maybe you keep him around just because you're like, I think we want to have 9 guys that we can play.
Yes.
And Keontae, you might be able to play at some point. Or Bryce, you might be able to play at some point, where we had gotten hyper-focused and trained by what previous championships teams had looked like 5 and 6 years ago of like, well, it's about your first 4 guys and nobody else matters. Yeah. I don't think that's true anymore.
No.
So maybe just having more guys, even if they're flawed but playable, is a reasonable thing. But yeah, like at least 4 guys on this Jazz team I think legitimately could have played like on the Pacers roster.
Yeah.
And maybe 3 of them could have played on the Thunder roster.
Absolutely. Any other DMs or blue sky?
I think that's good.
Okay. So we're going to group a bunch of questions together right here. Shout out to Widows, Riley, Quinn, Tyler Dopp, and Bleep Bloop. All basically asking about Jeremiah Fears, the rumors about him going to the Jazz, thinking that 5 would be too high for him, etc. What are your thoughts?
So I've gone back and kind of revisited Jeremiah Fears. And again, I've watched his games when I've watched other people. And I need to go back and watch a couple of the other top 5 picks. Like I need to watch Khan again.
Yes.
I've gone back and watched Trey again. I need to watch Ace again. So we'll see if I have time to do that in the next couple of days. But so it's interesting. He's bigger height-wise than Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Like now Donovan is all shoulders, has like a crazy body, huge waist, like huge butt, like can jump out of the gym, huge legs. So he's not bigger than Donovan, don't get me wrong, but like he's taller than Donovan. So he's not minuscule 5'11" guard trying to make it in the NBA.
Yeah.
He is still very thin. I wish I could talk you off the ledge on Jeremiah Fears, and I can't, because every time I watch him, it's like he catches your eye because he has the ball and he's darting all over the floor and he gets to wherever he wants. Like that's kind of a thing. It's kind of a valuable skill. The shot just does not go in.
Yeah.
It doesn't go in at the rim. It doesn't go in at the 3-point line. And yes, he shoots free throws. And yes, he's not afraid of physical contact, but that physical contact gets worse and worse and worse and more difficult in the NBA. So unless you are just so confident that he's going to actually turn into an elite shooter, like positive he's going to be an elite shooter, which he wasn't in high school and he hasn't been in college, I can't talk you off the ledge with him.
Yeah.
The way I would talk you off the ledge is I don't think that's what the Jazz are going to do. I really don't. But I know he shows up in a lot of mocks, and I get why he shows up in mocks, and he's 18 years old, and he reclassified in high school. Like, and the production is there. Like, raw stats, 17-4-4 or something on a good SEC, in a good SEC league on an okay team that was a disaster when he wasn't playing. So there's some stuff there. But in all honesty, I think 5 is very rich for him. And again,
I agree.
When I go back to the point of like, there's a chance that like 4 point guards drafted after him in the first round have better careers. Like I told you last week, I would take Yakashonis over him.
Jace Richardson.
No question. Probably take Jace Richardson over him, and he might even be a point guard.
Yeah.
I would take Will Clayton over Jace or over Jeremiah Fears.
Yeah.
Like, zero question, I would take him over. And I'm sure there are people who are like, you're the dumbest person ever.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, that's fine. I know I'm getting a guy who's going to shoot the leather off the ball.
Yeah.
He just is. He's going to be a great shooter, and I trust his decision making, and he's played high-level winning basketball, having won a championship at Florida. And I'm not using a top 5 pick on him. That's the value as well. So, look, the NBA is about 2 things, in my opinion. Really simple. Do you create space on one end, and do you erase it on the other? Basketball is super simple.
Yeah.
Can you do that? And there's a lot of ways to create space, actually. It's not just shooting.
Yes.
And actually, Jeremiah Fears creates a little bit of space because of his ability to get into the paint. I kind of look at defenses as like a balloon that are inside the 3-point line. And if you can pierce the balloon or expand it, you're doing good. You're manipulating the defense, and that balloon has to shrink or grow, and that's good for your offense. He pops the balloon, right? He gets into the paint.
Yeah.
He can get 2 feet into the paint, make decisions from there. I don't love the decisions he makes once he gets there.
Yes.
And if he has to make decisions by himself, he's just too little to get shots off or have them go in consistently. So there is some stuff there. But then defensively, he doesn't do anything to erase space because he's so little and he can only guard one player.
I'm going to be a broken record. I'm pretty sure this is my 3rd time saying this, talking about Jeremiah Fears. The Jazz's biggest problems were shooting, turning over the ball, and defense. And those are his 3 biggest weaknesses as well.
Yep.
I think if the Jazz take him at 5, that would be the only player they would pick with. Like, if I was to grade it, I would give it an F. Like,
okay.
Like, I can see everyone else in that conversation why the Jazz would take him. And for Jeremiah Fears, I'm just like, he accentuates your weaknesses. And, like, sure, he has upside, but now it's like, what happens with Collier, Keontae, Sexton, etc.
And yeah, I truly don't know if he's a better player than Isaiah Collier.
Yeah.
He plays differently. He gets to his spots on the floor differently, but like I don't think Isaiah getting where he does purely off the dribble with his huge body and great speed is a flaw. And I think he's a better finisher. And okay, maybe Jeremiah Fears ends up being a better 3-point shooter. And like his free throw percentage is way better than Isaiah Collier. So maybe there's some ability to lean into that, but I buy Isaiah's ability to finish at the rim with his physical ability.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess this is a simple way to put it. His physical profile is better than Jeremiah Fears, in my opinion.
And adding on to that, one more thing. Of those 3 weaknesses, the only thing that I can really see him like really improving in is the shooting. But with that said, I don't see him getting to like a 40% guy, like maybe 36, 37. But like when I watch him play, I never in his entire career see him being an average defender. And then I also I imagine he will probably have turnover problems for most of his career.
Yeah, I don't think he's particularly close to Kyrie or Darius Garland or these other small guards who are like, Darius came in as an elite shooter. Kyrie came in as a great shooter and an elite decision maker and has a much better handle. And Fears has an okay handle, but Kyrie's just a lot better. So I'm not going to talk you off the ledge at 5 of Fears. I think that would be a very, very big reach.
Yes. Next up, let's get into another talk about a prospect from Cisco is the Ace Stuff Smoke. I've seen reports that he wouldn't mind Utah and some say no to Utah. What are your thoughts on Ace to the Jazz? I like his fit. And then another question after this. But let's talk about Ace Bailey first.
The big smoke is that he hasn't worked out for anybody, and we don't know if he's going to work out for anybody, which maybe he has a promise somewhere, or maybe he's hurt and isn't working out for guys right now, though that's pretty dangerous to play. It'd be a pretty dirty pool to be like, I hurt myself, and now I'm not working out for anyone. There would be some upset people. And now his agent doesn't represent anyone else. So maybe his agent doesn't care. It's like, well, you're not going to hurt my other clients. I don't have any.
Yeah.
So that's there's some weird stuff there. I don't care if he doesn't want to be with the Jazz or does want to be with the Jazz before the draft. Like Jordan Clarkson, you think Jordan Clarkson going into the NBA was like, I would love to go to Utah? No, he's probably thrilled that he went to LA. And the best spot he's ever been in is Utah. Yeah. And now he's 32 years old or whatever, just turned 32 or whatever, and he loves it and wants to live here or long term or have a place here at least wherever he lives. So I don't really care about that. And if I were an agent, I'd actually look at Utah and be like, man, if they draft a guy, they make him a star, right? Like they made Donovan a star and they worshipped him, and they made Gordon Hayward a star and they worshipped him, and they made Darren Williams a star and they worshipped him, and that comes with good and bad. You can over worship these guys and look too closely, and then everything goes under a microscope. But I wouldn't be afraid of that if I were Ace Bailey. But again, I have context of living here my whole life, so I just don't think it's the smoke. Is that I don't really care if he's not working out for you. Yeah, it's just if you like him at 5, if you have him at 3 on your board and he's there at 5, take him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless Dylan Harper's 2 on your board and he's still there.
Yeah.
But if he's the best player on your board, I just think you draft him, and I don't think I care about anything else at all.
Yes. Because that's the thing is you have these guys locked down for what, 2, 3, 4 years?
5 years?
5 years. Yeah, exactly. So it's you can still build your team around him, and then it's if it gets to year 3, 4, and either it's not working out or he still is hard set on not liking it there and he wants to go, then you trade him.
If he's the best player and he still doesn't like your city, 3 years from now, you're still trading the best player.
Yes.
Versus a guy who's not as good, who did like being here, but you say, well, I can't win with him.
Yeah.
That's the simple part of why you should draft best player available, which I'm a little bit torn on the best player available argument in general and whether teams should do it. We know they don't.
Yes.
Right? Teams draft for need all the time, and that makes sense. But if you don't think it's going to work out 3 years from now, do you know VJ's going to work out? Do you know Dylan Harper would like to be here? Do you know Cooper Flagg would like to be here? Gordon Hayward left.
Yeah.
Gordon Hayward, small town Indiana white guy, left Utah. Yeah, because he wanted to be somewhere else. Okay, you just got to be afraid of everyone leaving then.
Yes.
Or not afraid of nobody because you can't care because everyone could hurt you that way.
Yep.
And it's a league where everybody changes teams at least once anymore. So,
next up, another one from Cisco. Thoughts on Will Riley at 21? People say reports say he's killing workouts and guys moving workouts because he's going to be there.
That'd be interesting. If guys don't want to work out against him, that is a thing that happens. Mm-hmm. I didn't love him. Again, watching him just super thin. Mm-hmm. It's going to be probably a year at least, 2, maybe 2 before his body catches up. And then the skills that he had, I think he's going to take a lot of his usage. You have to be really high to get to the skills he wants to have.
Yeah.
So I get it. I know why people are talking about him. I get the size.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be drafted right in that range for the Jazz. He just wasn't it's not my flavor of the month.
Yeah. I agree. I think that there will be better options at 21.
Yeah. And by the way, we'll talk more about Ace Bailey coming up in the mock draft.
Yes.
I don't want to. That's the big story right now, and it's a huge story.
Yeah.
I still think there's a chance he goes 3. I think if he falls past Philly at 3, I think there are going to be teams chomping at the bit to trade up to 4 to get him.
Oh yeah.
And does Charlotte trade back to 6? And think we can get our Con Knippel or our Trey Johnson or whatever. One of those 2 guys we're really comfortable taking, and we get a second asset at 6. I could see that happening. I could see if the Jazz don't feel comfortable taking him, which I don't know why they wouldn't. Again, historically, sorry to go back a question.
No, it's okay.
Danny Ainge has drafted Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum with top 5 picks, right? it's hard to remember what a huge, like, go back and look at the draft grades for Jaylen Brown the year the Celtics traded him. It's like universally an F. Like, this guy doesn't shoot at all. He's kind of a weird guy because he's like a Berkeley guy. He's like a real genius. But he's weird. He's like introspective and he's just a weird dude. But very likable in my opinion. I know not everyone feels that way, but like, if you just like him and you trust it, just take him and just say, we're going to make it work and we're going to build around you and we're going to turn you into a star. And
yes.
So I don't think that would necessarily, I don't know if like the type of player would scare the Jazz away necessarily, or some of that off the floor stuff. But yeah, maybe the Jazz are sitting there at 5, and again, this is just, speculation. Yeah, the Pelicans have to get up there and are willing to trade like a Herb Jones or Trey Murphy for the Jazz to drop back 2 spots.
Yeah.
Deal.
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay, maybe, yeah. Right. Then you get a player that has a fit on your team, moves you closer to where you want to be, and then you still get a good guy at 7.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Jeremiah Fears or whatever, if that's who you're in love with. But whatever, along those lines.
Next up from Clayton Searle, would you trade John Collins and Colin Sexton for Bradley Beal in the 10th pick?
Yeah.
Yeah? I just, like, I guess it's like similar to like taking on the Paul George contract, like taking on the Bradley Beal contract. But to me, I just feel like you could get a better package for both those guys. I get the idea of like unloading them to like really just like try to win every game next year, but you just don't have as good of a roster to do it. And also like the thought of like, again, taking 3 first-round picks is kind of scary to me. But
it's a lot, yeah. Oh, and I'd just move off the 21st pick, to be honest with you, because you'd add 2 guys, and I think you can trade 21 for a future first that'll probably have very similar value. Yes. Again, the gap between 21 and 25 is not very big historically, so trade it to another team and hope you get their top 14 protected pick in the future, but there's a chance it's 18, and then you moved up from 21 to 18 and you got 10.
Yeah,
So again, I know those are 2 separate transactions, but yeah, because I think you got to look at. I don't think you're going to get great trades back for John Collins and Colin Sexton.
Yeah,
they're a little bit older. It's hard to trade that type of money right now in the NBA. We talked about those 2 guys for Damian Lillard and the 2032 pick from the Bucks. It's like, it's a high upside pick. Maybe it's worse than 10. Like, there's a 2/3 chance it's worse than 10, right?
Yes.
10's top third of the draft.
Yeah.
So I think there's a chance that 2 years from now you can rebuild on the fly, or I should say 7 years from now, 6 years from now, you rebuild on the fly if you're Milwaukee and that pick's the 18th pick.
Yeah.
20th pick, and you've got Dame for a year that he didn't play, and then Dame coming back at 36 years old with an Achilles injury. It's like, I'd probably rather just have Bradley Beal in 10.
Yeah.
So I would get why if you did that.
From Brandon, if the guy the Jazz want is off the board at 5, are any of the teams right behind them wanting to move up for someone specific? What type of return could the Jazz expect if they moved back into the 6 to 8 range?
Yeah, I guess, truthfully, 6 is not much, right? 5 and 6, those swaps historically are not very much. I'd have to go back and look. It ended up expanding, so it's hard to even narrow down what it was. But I remember on draft night 2 years ago when the Jazz drafted Taylor Hendricks, there was talk about moving up to 8, I think it was, where the Wizards took Bilal Coulibaly. Okay. And I think that if I remember correctly, Jazz were at 9. I think the Pacers were at 8, and I think the Wizards were at 7. I can pull this up, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was the opposite. Pacers were at 6. Wizards were at 7. Jazz were it was 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
So sorry. Pacers were at 7. Wizards were at 8. Jazz were 9. Whatever it was.
Yeah.
I think they got like the Wizards and Pacers swapped places. And the Wizards ended up getting Bilal Coulibaly and the Pacers ended up getting Jarris Walker.
Yeah.
It was like a 2nd round pick. It was like 1 second-round pick.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, like what the agreed upon deal was at that point, it was that small.
Yeah.
So like 5 to 6, I don't think you're getting like a future first to move back a spot.
Yeah.
1 spot in this draft particularly. But then again, if there's a guy like Ace Bailey on the board, maybe that changes it.
Sure.
The difference between Jarris Walker and Bilal Coulibaly and Taylor Hendricks at that point in the draft, it was like those were guys who were very clearly in a tier.
Yes.
If there's a board where someone says, "Oh, our tiers were Cooper Flagg 1, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey were in the 2nd tier, and then there's a tier in between our next guys who are going to go 3, 4, and 5. But there's like superstar tier Cooper Flagg, all-star tier Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, and then we're like high lottery talent. There's nobody in that board here.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just speculating, hypothetical, somebody else. And then it's VJ Edgecombe or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, he's on the board. We think we can get an all-star with the 5th pick. We're not going to be able to get back to it next year. Trade up and get him. I could see a team offering somewhat significant value there, but it's not like a superstar. I don't think you're getting an all-star player. Like even in my hypothetical Herb Jones from 7 to the Jazz for 5, and the Jazz move back, like Jazz probably have to send something back to New Orleans to A, match the salaries, but B, like that has value.
Yeah.
I don't think you're just getting Herb Jones for free.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Next up from Garth. Is everything we're hearing about draft night smoke from teams and agents? Will there be any shocking picks at the top of the draft that we haven't heard about? Will Utah keep all their picks? So excited for the drama this week.
Most of it's from agents and
Yes.
teams. Yeah, like it's not like players are doing it.
Yeah.
Players are pretty good about just keeping their mouth shut. You got to understand, these kids are 18 and scared out of their minds.
Yes.
Like they're intimidated by these front offices. Some guys aren't. There's the random guys every once in a while who step up and are a little bit goofy. But for the most part, these kids are. I mean, imagine being 18 years old and talking to walking these buildings and being like, oh my gosh, that's Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
these guys still get starstruck.
Yeah.
Walking into these buildings that, you like go to the Rutgers practice facility and then go to the Zions Bank Basketball Center campus, whatever it is, and be like, oh, you guys have everything. This is amazing. This is awesome. And you want to make me the face of the franchise? Like, yes, whatever you say. I think players are excited about it. So no, I don't think they even have the wherewithal to create smoke.
Yes.
But yeah, players or agents and teams absolutely leak stuff, try and get somebody to fall, try and get their guy to shoot up draft boards, et cetera, et cetera. Absolutely happens.
Shocking picks at the top of the draft. This is started to come around a little bit more recently. And in fact, this is not to spoil anything, but this is my pick in my mock draft.
Okay.
I'll ruin one of the picks.
Okay. We're going to do a mock draft, and I think we're just going to interchange. You'll take the 1, I'll take the 2, you take the 3. So we'll see, but yeah.
At 4, I had the Hornets taking Concanipple.
Yeah, and that's not
super shocking.
That's I think a lot of mocks right now are projecting.
Yes, but a couple weeks ago, no one would have said that. And it's just I think that Con has been
me.
Yeah, I think Con has been killing his workouts. And then
I'm curious how many workouts he's done. He had that ankle injury.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, did he go in late? Gave everyone a little taste late.
Yes.
He's playing 3-on-3 with guys. He's just dicing everybody up.
Yeah, but I think that he just would slide in perfectly between LaMelo and Brandon, assuming the Hornets are rolling with them next year.
Yeah,
and that's not that shocking.
Again, what would qualify as shocking for me
Yes.
would be the Spurs taking Ace or VJ over Dylan Harper and saying guys, we saw him. We know what we have. Mm-hmm. We're not going to trade De'Aaron Fox. We have Steph Castle, and we need shooting, and we need kind of something a little bit different than what we have. And we don't think we're going to get good value back for De'Aaron Fox at this point because we just traded for him.
Yes,
and Steph Castle we love, and we just want to keep investing in him because he just won Rookie of the Year. We think there's a lot of upside there. It doesn't make sense to take Dylan Harper then. So we're going to go in a different direction, and we're going to take Ace because we think if Ace hits with Wemby, you've got the best front court in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I know he's more of a 2-3, but he could play up to as big as 4.
Yeah.
If his body continues to develop, and look at his frame and look at the frames of guys that are similar to him, he could be enormous in 3 years.
Yes.
Especially if he's still growing. He's 18 years old.
Yeah.
So if they did something like that and kind of shocked everyone, and I honestly wouldn't be how did that ever happen? Mm-hmm. That wouldn't be the most shocking draft night thing we've ever seen.
Yes.
Anthony Bennett went number 1 overall. So
Bill Simmons, whoa.
Yeah, whoa. Yeah. If something like that happened, I'd be that's a surprise. Otherwise, I don't know if there's real surprises at 3, 4, or 5 for me.
Yeah.
And of course that's if Derek Queen goes 4th, that's a surprise.
Yes.
But again, if Common Malawash went 4, I wouldn't be shocked.
No.
We know they hate Mark Williams, apparently, because they tried to trade him. And we're unhappy he came back, and they can't really afford to pay him, right?
Yeah.
They can afford to, but do you want to pay a guy that you tried to trade?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably not. So if they just said oh, Malawash, oh, that's surprising.
Yeah.
And that means that then you've got Con and Trey Johnson and Ace Bailey and Jeremiah Fears, all these guys on the board. But I don't think that's that wild. I think the reason we haven't heard a lot about this draft is because I think there's a lot of mix, and people are afraid to say what's going on.
Yeah.
I think if generally at this point, if who the top 4 or 5 guys are going to be, I don't think we have any guarantees. And on my show, Jake and Ben, we've interviewed a lot of draft people, my friend Kristen Peak and other draft people around. I'm what's a certainty? And they're oh, we don't know.
Yeah.
Other than Cooper and probably Dylan too. There's I remember a week before the draft, I was kind of talking about it was the Taylor Hendricks draft.
Yes.
And being I wonder if Ace Bailey would be there. And Kristen was zero chance. I promise you Ace, or who did I say?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Looking at or Anthony Black, excuse me.
Yes.
Anthony Black is like not going to be there when the Jazz are drafting at all. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, because like speculation 2 days before the draft was like maybe he would be. She's like, I promise you he won't be.
Yeah.
We're not getting that right now.
Yeah.
We're not. I don't have anyone who's like, they're guaranteed they're not going to be on the board when this team is picking, other than like Dylan and Cooper Fleck. Sorry, a lot of names we're bouncing around with real quickly.
I just want to talk about the hypothetical for a second, even though this is going to be a long episode. If the Spurs don't take Harper at 2 and he's available at 3, like the 76ers, they already have Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain. Like, I think they would start getting some crazy offers.
They
like,
would start getting huge offers.
Yeah, and like including from the Jazz, but like so many teams would be reaching out to them. That would be a crazy situation.
I agree.
All right. Next up from Wild Turkey. Dream scenario situation you hope takes place on draft night for the Jazz.
I don't really care. You know what I mean? Honestly, like, give me something I can write about and make my life really easy for the next several years. Get a championship player. That makes my life easier.
Yeah.
I just, I hope the guys are nice guys. I hate to be like boring and like, I really don't care. I just, I talk about the players. I told you the players I like, the guys I think tend to work out in the NBA. I hate to be a fence sitter like that, but it's like, and I can't tell you who's going to be better of these players. Like, I know who I think is going to be better. Like, I know kind of how I would arrange these guys and maybe what order I would take them in. But, like, I don't know what offers you get for Lowry right now.
Yeah.
Like, all of that would legitimately change my decision-making.
Yes.
And I hate to operate from that perspective. If you were to say nothing were to change, like, this is the roster, what's going to look like going forward, like, and Ace Bailey's on the board, I would just say take him.
Yes.
Right? Like, I would just say, like, he's been the number 2 guy or 3 guy on every board for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, I know he had a weird year at Rutgers. Also, Dylan Harper, his teammate, got hurt midway through the season and missed a little bit of time. And it was pretty obvious early on that they weren't going to be competing for anything serious. So if his attention waned, I would totally understand it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember watching Jaden McDaniels at Washington on a team that had other pros on it, but they were a disaster of a team. They didn't play very hard. They played a weird zone, so it was like kind of hard to read him. And I remember watching him and being like, those physical tools are so good. Mm-hmm. And even though a lot of the other stuff is not there, like, the flashes are so high and so bright. And I can tell this dude does not care that he's in college and doesn't want to be here and can't wait to get to the NBA, that I would have taken him. Now, he was talked about being drafted in the late 20s, but I have a hard time shaking that when I'm looking at Ace Bailey and applying all those things to him. Except for he was also a way better college player than Jaden McDaniels was.
Yes.
And if you drafted Jaden McDaniels with the 5th pick, you had a good draft.
Yeah.
Like, Jaden McDaniels is a really good player. If you got him at 5, that's a good player. And I think there is some of that there. And again, that's not my comp for Ace Bailey by any means, but like just kind of the window of like who they were, physical profile. Did they care about being in college? They just want to get to the next level.
Yeah.
But the physical tools are so good that like they're just going to find a way to work.
I agree with you. I think that the best case scenario for the Jazz, because like I don't want to say you've been making the safe pick, but like, and this is tying into this next question as well, but I think that you do have to take a swing, which is kind of a weird situation you're in, which we'll talk about in the mock draft. But Film Jackson, not a question. If we don't swing for Ace and get another top 10 pick, we'll be trapped in another play it safe Dennis Lindsey era. What say you?
I do think, and I wrote this in my article, which I wrote on April 28th about Ace Bailey. I went back and reread it this morning because I just want to stay a little bit consistent. And again, it's when I watched like 5 straight games of him and like what were my opinions there, and then I've watched all these other guys. It's easy to like lose focus on what you remember. But like I remember writing that and being like, and I still feel the same way. It's like he's actually a lot safer than you think.
Yeah.
Because he's 6'7.5". I think he's going to be a good shooter. Like I legitimately think he's going to shoot the ball well. Like I think he's a more talented shooter than Taylor Hendricks is. And Taylor was a really good shooter at Central Florida. Ace is like a more pure shooter even than that.
Yes.
So I think he's going to shoot. I think he's 6'7.5". I think I do believe in the steals and blocks numbers. There's just like kind of some natural basketball stuff there. I do think he's freakishly talented. Like that's why he's been at the top of every board forever and gone to all these camps and been on all these AAU teams, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I went back through my list and I said like, guys like this make it. And I mentioned Jaden McDaniels and I mentioned Kyle Kuzma as like some low end outcomes, and Bobby Portis and Bojan Bogdanovic and Lauri Markkanen, and there's just like big guys who shoot are valuable in the NBA. Again, what did I say? It's like the NBA is about 2 things: creating space on one end and taking it away on the other. And I think like at his worst, he's going to be able to do both of them at least a little.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am on Ace Bailey.
Next from Cam Young.
And then, get like a Maxime Reynaud or a Walter Clayton and be like a little bit older and make your life a little easier.
Yeah.
Like another like Will Riley being like, This guy's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of G League reps for this guy. It's going to be hard.
Yeah. Cam Young, how likely is it that the front office knows the draft selections, order 1 through 4 leading up to the draft? Do GMs ever divulge that info to each other as favors or for relationship building?
Yes. Guys talk. You know what I mean? Like famously, the Jazz were able to get, I think, Donovan Mitchell for this very reason. Like they knew that the Nuggets wanted X, Y, and Z and thought somebody was going to be on the board at 21. They didn't end up being there. So they made that trade stupidly. But like, yeah, this happens. Teams do research. They trade info. They know that like, hey, if this situation breaks, this is going to be beneficial for us. And we're going to be able to draft this player here. So yes, they do that. And I suspect they will divulge to each other as a value swapping.
Yes.
And then you just have friends in different front offices. So you kind of get to know stuff like that.
Yeah.
I bet it's going to be pretty hard to project who the top 4 guys are.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't I don't think the Jazz would be totally I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz guessed it and got it right. But are they going to be 100% confident going into draft night that they know who it is? I bet they wouldn't be.
No.
So.
Yeah. All right. Next up from Graham Jack Jordan. Why not trade Kessler and take best available center with pick 21? If we pay Kessler, aren't we getting Rudy 2.0 and paying too high of a salary for a 15th best center in the NBA? Do we want to allocate that much salary for Kessler, get a couple firsts and start over?
I don't know how much they would be paying him. So that's again, it's not trying to be snooty. I just legitimately don't know how much they would be paying him. So I don't know if it's 4 years and $80 million. That's a heck of a deal. It's a really good. It's a good player for that price. If it's 4 years and 130, that's too much.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to pay him that much. And the nice thing is he's a restricted free agent next year, so you don't have to pay him right now if you don't want to. If you came to a deal where it's 4 years, $100 million, I think that's a good deal, especially if you get a team option on the 4th year, or you could start it high and drop it because you're not going to be winning next year and you know it. If you could start him up at $28 million and slowly drop it so he's making 22 4 years from now, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'm not necessarily I wouldn't be that concerned about that situation where you're overpaying for a guy at the wrong position. And then, I just take a guy at 21. I take anyone at 21 I think can make it. But if you draft Maxime Reynaud, the center I like, or Sorber's there at 21, and if in 2 years they're better than Walker, I think you're going to be able to trade Walker.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be 25 and a starting center. Those guys are tradable.
Yes.
At basically any cost.
More on this, Brady NBA. Would you trade Kessler to Phoenix for the 10th pick?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
From Widow and Riley, any word on if Cody Williams is adding weight?
I saw the workout videos they've had. It didn't look like obvious weight. His legs looked a little bit bigger to me. I thought his shoulders looked maybe a little bit broader to me, but he's got a t-shirt on, so these guys are working out without the shirts on.
Yeah.
And he's not.
Yeah.
So, also got to remember, he had mono to end the year, and it sidelines you for a month and a half. I've never had it, but that's my understanding. So it's it really keeps you out, and it's a bad I have to stay in bed sickness. I don't have any energy to work out. So. That was a major setback. That might have been one of the worst things, other than an injury that could have happened to him.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see him coming up at the summer league to see how much bigger he looks.
Same.
He will look bigger because
Yes.
he's growing and Jazz are feeding him well, and he's in the weight room. And he's working out. But we talked about this with Walker too. And again, Walker played 2 years of college. Cody only played 1. Walker came to the NBA, talked going to his sophomore season of the NBA how much stronger he had gotten, playing with Team USA, etc. Got on the court, didn't see it at all.
No.
It's what happened? We thought you got way bigger. And then year 3, it popped how much stronger he was, right? You and I talked a lot about, we went and saw them play against the Bucks, and Brook Lopez would just move him out of the way.
Yeah.
It was it wasn't there. Playing against a 5th grader. And now this year, guys can't move Walker.
Yeah.
Just might take year 3 for Cody, which again, you just got to be patient, which it's important to remember with all of these guys. Again, to go on another aside, it's if you draft a guy who's a true freshman, you got to give him 3 years. I don't care. I don't care if he had the worst sophomore season or rookie season or whatever. You should probably go in telling yourself, minus him running over and killing somebody, I'm going to give him 3 years to become a player.
Yeah.
Because if I give up on it too early, why did I draft a one-and-done player in the first place? I knew he wasn't going to help us his first year.
Yes.
And I knew he probably was going to help us his second year. So I got to at least see what my coaches can do over 36 months to give him a chance, which is might be why I wouldn't give up on Keontae yet either.
Yeah. And it's I feel that's the case for literally every single player outside of maybe the top 3.
Yep. And even the top 3.
Yeah.
It's you giving up Dylan Harper after 2 years?
Yeah.
Good thing Portland isn't giving up on Scoot yet. Scoot kind of has started to put it together a little bit.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
All right. Next up from Derek Nyem. Any fun past rookie workout stories from the non-Donovan Mitchell category that you were able to share?
Keita Bates' job passed out. like quasi passed out.
Yeah.
So that's when we used to be able to interview him, and we don't get to interview him anymore. But like we went and talked to him, and he had a workout with the Jazz, and he was sitting over and talking to us, and you could kind of tell he like wasn't answering our questions super well. And you're like, is this a dumb guy or what's going on? And he's like, hold on, I need to lay down. And so where we do it, there's the court, and then there would be like a brick wall just off the court, like over by one of the baskets. And we're off to the side, and we're talking to him, and he just is like, I need to sit down. And like I think he like grabs, I can't remember if it was like Andy or what, but like he like put his hand on him and then like took a knee and then literally laid flat on his back. And we were like, help, something's going on. And he was just tired.
Yeah.
But like, and he was at altitude and he'd probably been in 3 cities in 3 days. And but that just like, I felt bad for him. He was like dehydrated and at altitude and it was kind of stunk. Anthony Simons worked out for the Jazz and notoriously had like a really bad workout, like looked lazy and disinterested, and he was like right in the Jazz's draft range and they didn't draft him, and he started into a good player, which is what I go back to it as my like, don't read into like workouts that much.
Yeah.
If you thought he was good, and he was weird, he went to the IMG Academy, he was like high school to pro, the way some guys can without ever playing in the NBA, even though the one and done rule was in place already at that point. So there was some weird stuff there. David Lee notoriously had like the best workout in Jazz history. Ended up going to the Warriors and was an okay player. I think he made an all-star team actually in his career. But David Lee, I think famously had the best workout the Jazz have ever seen, at least of that old regime. Donovan maybe has eclipsed him. Rudy Gobert was getting his butt kicked by Steven Adams, I think, in every draft workout, if I remember is the story. So guys do avoid players, and sometimes that doesn't mean they're the better player. Like Rudy's a better player than Steven Adams. Yeah. But in a one-on-one situation, when Steven Adams was a brick house when he was coming out of Pitt, and Rudy Gobert was an alien and couldn't move anybody, I see those situations. Yeah. So I'm trying to think out of the top of my head. You know, it's been interesting talking to a lot of these guys, and I'm sure there are more.
Yes. Another one from Derek. Could you walk us through what a typical rookie welcome to the NBA is like? Do they get assigned specific coaches, specific drills, specific workout routines, etc., that are unique to each incoming player?
Yeah. You kind of figure out what their strengths are, and you build on those strengths, and you try and improve them so they can actually see the floor based on their strength. You know, you don't get on the floor because your weaknesses. You get on the floor because of what you do well, and they want to make sure that those get up to par, and then you start working on some of the other stuff. Like I think a lot of people are like, well, what didn't you do in college? Immediately have them do that. I think it's kind of the opposite. You work on those things. You want to get better at those things. But the reason they got drafted for X, Y, and Z, and then you build those up to a level, and then you start filling out the rest. Yeah. So, and then, you know, where do the Jazz have a coach that works on their three-point shooting specifically or free throws? And they kind of all work on all this stuff. But, yeah, then you get assigned different coaches and different skills, and you meet at different times, and, you know, you come in, you have very specific workout regimens to build different parts of your body up and diets, et cetera.
All right, next up from Jimbo Slice. How do you go about obtaining a source inside the Jazz organization? Do they come to you when they want to spin a story? Is it all on you to try and make friends? How do they balance what they want leaked and not telling reporters anything so it doesn't leak?
Early on, it is all on you. Yeah. You know, now what you don't want to do is go up and be like, hey, off the record. And they're like, I've never seen you before. What are you talking about? Who are you? So it's hard. That is one of the harder things to do. And then also, I think some of sourced information gets a little bit overrated. Now, I'm like pro sources. Like I use them. Everyone uses them. You've got to have them do your job well, and they're valuable. I said this on my show the other day, and I want to reiterate this a little bit. And this was last week. Yeah. Like, I can't tell you how many times in my articles I write something that'll say like a source told KSL Sports or a source told me. And then I erase it and I just write the sentence after anyways. And it's like, it's in the story and it came from a source. Yes. I think sometimes when you use like a source told me or an anonymous person told me. Yeah. And then put the article or the information. Sometimes we just put out stupid information that doesn't actually matter. But like you feel like, well, a source told me I should put it out there. Like they told me this secretly, so I should put it out there. It's like, well, does it actually have value or not, what you learned? Like if it didn't matter and it's not worth conveying, don't put it in your story. Yeah. If the only reason it's going in your story is because a source told me, it's probably, that's bad context. Yes. Like if it's only good because somebody told it to you, like a source told it to you, but the actual value of the information is worthless, don't put it in your story. Yeah. And I've realized like I've done that. Like I've done that as a young person. And if I know the information's good enough alone without putting the source next to it, like I'll just take the source out of it. Because like, I don't want to get that person in trouble. Like what if it was from a source? And I recognize like, oh, only one person knows that or two people know that. And one will know, well, I didn't tell him. So it had to be the other guy, like, or other woman or whoever. Yeah. Like, oh, just don't even put a source in there. So like that happens as well. And there are people who like are really good with sourced information. There are very rarely, but occasionally people make up sources. It's super rare. It's like, I promise you, it's nobody who like covers the Jazz right now. Like everyone has their connections. I promise you. Like everyone's good at their job. But randomly people do come in. But yeah, so to get to the actual question, like the best thing you can do is just do good work, right? Come in, work consistently, work hard, become familiar with everybody. They will start to read your work. They trust your work, et cetera. And they recognize like you're around. You're not there to burn anybody.
Yeah.
Then you can just kind of build up personal relationships with people. And then as you build up those personal relationships, it develops from there of like, hey, can I text you? Hey, can I ask you this? Hey, I saw this. What did you think of this? And then sometimes it's like, then you get to a point where it is like, hey, and there are certain scenarios where it's appropriate, right? Like I'm not even going to say what because I don't want to pretend or make someone think something that I'm not trying to. But like there are just certain situations where it's like totally appropriate to be like, hey, off the record. Oh, and by the way, sometimes those people set it up or saying like, hey, I'm going to be available if you want to talk off the record. We can talk and clear all this air. And it happens in weirder situations than people recognize. But like sometimes, you just go and chat with somebody for a little bit and just be like, hey, look at what Houston's doing. Do you think that works? Like off the record, do you think that would work for you guys? Yeah. And they'll be like, no, not necessarily. Or yes, this is something that like these ideas are around. Mm-hmm. So like it really does. It's like, it's kind of a slow process. I think the idea that you're going to come in and be like, I'm going to beat the competitors or competition by being like source guy all the time. I think that's kind of a flawed design. Yeah. And then, not every information you get, some of the information I put out is from sources that I just don't put as from sources because A, I'm not going to name the source, and B, I actually think it weakens the information or it changes what people think of it. So it's a good question. It's hard to, it's like in some ways it's harder to do than you think because you don't go in immediately and be like, where are my sources? Yeah. And then in some ways I think it's a little bit less important than people think. Yeah.
All right. I believe the last question here from Jesse. Who are your will be drafted 5 spots too low and will be drafted 5 spots too high candidates?
I think you can probably like take away that I think like Yakashona is going to get drafted too low. I think Walter Clayton's going to get drafted too low. I think Maxime Renaud is going to get drafted too low. I worry Thomas Sorber might get drafted too low. Though he could go 5 spots too high.
Too high, Ryan Cockbrenner.
Anywhere in the top 60. Cockbrenner too high. I worry that Carter Bryant's going to get drafted too high. Is another guy we haven't talked about at all. Yes. So Carter Bryant is like this 3-and-D wing from Arizona who's like getting serious burn at like 8, 9, 10, 11. And I think he's going to go there as a freshman. This is where the draft circle I think gets really not toxic because maybe he just turns into a good player. But why I think he might be 5 spots too high in my opinion. It's like, remember last year he averaged 6 points and 4 rebounds. Yeah. And he didn't start every game. Yeah. In fact, he didn't start most games. He only played 19 minutes a night. Like maybe Arizona's just a team full of idiots. I don't think so, but they didn't see him as being like a guy that you had to have on the floor at all times. And then you're like, oh, the body's awesome. Like he actually does have a very cool body and had good athleticism, 39-inch vert and a good 3/4 court sprint. Like the athleticism is definitely there. And 6'7", 215. So like the frame is there. And like all this stuff makes sense. And it's like, and still when he was on the court, like he didn't play that well. Yeah. And I'm actually kind of surprised. Maybe I haven't, but again, it's because I try and avoid seeing comps. But it's like, I'm surprised he's not getting more Stanley Johnson comps, who also went to Arizona and also had a freakish body coming out and also didn't play like huge minutes his first year, but was certainly played more than Carter Bryant does. Yeah. And then just like didn't make it in the NBA. I mean, he even got a cup of coffee with the Jazz in a preseason. It was like a very nice kid. I was surprised at like how good of a kid he was. Yeah. And didn't stick around. So I'm like, I'm looking at Stanley Johnson. Stanley Johnson, 37% from 3. Carter Bryant, like I'm 0.371, like to the 1,000th of a point. The exact same 3-point shooting percentage. That's exact same shooting percentage. Let's see, 44% from the floor, 46% from Carter Bryant. Like, I'm surprised we haven't seen that comp everywhere. But, like, that's my fear. It's like, oh, I get, like, it's cool. Like, I get the body. I get that, like, we're excited about those types of players. And you're like, if all this stuff happens, like, he literally can't dribble. Yeah. Like, I watched him play, he can't dribble at all. No. And, like, he's an okay 3-point shooter. He took 2.5 a game and knocked him down at 37%, but wasn't taking 8 a game and knocking down to 37%. So, like, I'm not even totally sold on him as, like, a shooter or, like, a quick processor. Like, sometimes he catches the ball and he, like, turns around. Like, he's like, I don't want to go forward to the rim. Like, that's dangerous. I can go backwards. It's a lot safer. And he goes backwards. So 1 assist. It's like, I think Carter Bryant's my, like, guy I'm circling with, like, that guy's going to get drafted in a weird spot. And like in the right situation with a ton of leeway, I like him a lot. And in the wrong situation, I think he's going to burn somebody.
Oh, too high, Jeremiah Fears.
I think Fears has a chance to go way too high.
Yeah. But then you also talked about it could be like a situation where he just falls way further than people think.
Yeah, he just might end up being there at like 21.
Yeah.
Yegor Demon, if he goes in the top 10, is 5 spots too high.
Yeah, I agree.
And if Brooklyn takes him, which is the rumor, it's too high.
All right. I think that's it.
Okay, we're going to do a mock draft coming up next. I appreciate everyone. I know I got a little hung up on Anthony Black and never recovered. It's been a long 2 months getting ready for this draft, so I'm glad it's finally here. Thanks everyone who listened to it. Listen to our mock draft coming up next if you listen to this podcast, and we'll be live again Wednesday night on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Then we'll come back. We'll do a Twitter live and also have this out for Thursday morning. You'll have a reaction to the Jazz's first round. Have fun at the draft, everybody. It's like it's my favorite time of year. I hope you can enjoy it too.